Dear everyone, welcome. I think that we can start today. My name is Margot Didichenko. Today I will moderate the webinar and the discussion. Today we have planned an event that is not all about presenting, but also about a dialogue. So everyone is welcome to participate in today's discussion. Today, Rosquit Coalition for Ukraine and Ukrainian Rebuilding Group will present the work we have been finishing for quite a while. And this is the Public Participation Handbook of Urban Planning for Ukraine. So today, please use the opportunity to ask a question, use the Q&A and chat options. And right after the presentation, which will last up to 40 minutes, we will be happy to start a live discussion about the urgent challenges and best practices we need to implement. So this public participation handbook is going to enter the public domain today. It is published in the electronic format in English and in Ukrainian. Please use it for free. We aim it at experts, at local self-government, at everyone who works with public participation in urban planning. So we are very grateful to the ZMIN Foundation that supported the publication of this handbook, and let us have a look at it. My colleagues today will start introducing themselves. I would also invite everyone to answer this question. Let's get to know each other, and my team will get the floor.
Good evening, good afternoon, or maybe good morning to everyone who is here today. Thank you very much, Margot, for the very nice introduction of the project and of our handbook. My name is Dominika Ludwikova, and I'm an urban planner from Slovakia, currently based in Poland, and I had a great chance to be coordinating the group of public participation, which came into being in the second half of the previous year. Before we will tell you more details about the handbook, please let me tell you more about the project team, because I think it's very important to get to know each other a bit better. So who is here with us and who was participating in this great project about participation? Please let me welcome Darina Pashuta. Darina, welcome. Darina is a Ukrainian architect currently based in the Netherlands. She has a great knowledge about the participation from Ukraine and Netherlands, and she is the author of the huge part about the Ukraine context. But don't worry, she will tell you a bit more about it in a few seconds. Then we have Fulko Treffers. He is the co-founder of Rosquit, and he has an enormous knowledge about the participation, both from Netherlands and Ukraine. And he was the one who created this group. And for that, we are very thankful. Fulko, welcome. Our next panelist and next colleagues from the team is Gala Kornienko, Ukrainian architect and urban planner, currently based in United States. She is also educator and researcher who just finished her PhD about inclusive participation. So it's a great honor to have you here as well. Welcome, Gala. And the last team member who is with us today is Ching, an American planner who's came with the idea to create the handbook of public participation, and he did an enormous job writing about the fundamentals, but he will tell you more as well today. Unfortunately, our last member team is not with us today, but he's the founder of URAG, the head of the URAG, which is Ukraine Rebuilding Action Group from United States, and our partner, and we are really glad that we have such a partnership, and that from this partnership the handbook came into being. So that's our team, but I need to say that without our back office team, the Rospik back office team, Margot, Tatiana, and Valentina, we wouldn't be here today, and I'm very grateful that we have you. So what is the handbook about? As I already said, there are several parts. We have 3 sections. The first one is about the fundamentals. Then we wrote about the Ukrainian context, and not to be too much theoretical, we wrote about some case studies. But maybe here is a question, and it's very important to say to whom this handbook is delivered, or like who can use it, and why is it the handbook for the Ukraine, and how the Ukraine could, Ukrainian planners, architects, official representatives of municipalities, of Hromadas, who else could use it, and why they should use it. For answering this question, I will ask my dear colleague Darina to take the floor and tell us more about it. Please, Darina, the stage is yours.
Good day. Thank you so very much, everyone who has joined. My name is Darina Pasuta. I am an urban planner from Ukraine. And next slide, please. I would like to tell you why our handbook is published right now. We believe that now Ukraine is living through very difficult processes of shaping our democratic future. We are paying a huge price for that, and presently we understand that the old approach, which was when solutions were given from the top down, are not working anymore. The public must have access to getting solutions in urban planning. So the goal of our participation handbook was to provide guidance to local governments, municipalities, the public, to participate, how architects are working with houses, how engineers are working with engineering structures. This is the way planners are working with the communities, and they are facilitating the participation of the community in the processes of urban planning. Similarly, local self-governing institutions, local municipalities can use the same instruments, can engage the same stakeholders, and use these guidelines to work in participation. We also invite academics and educators who are eager to include participation in their academic courses to use this handbook. And the general public is welcome to use it to understand how participation works, when, at what stage they can join the participation process. And now we can see that the community and the general public is eager to understand and to participate, and we have so much initiative but not always the activists understand the responsibility. Next slide, please, and when they can join the process. And so we were very specific, at least we tried to be, very specific about the Ukrainian context, so that the users of this handbook would know the Ukrainian context. We have analyzed our laws on spatial planning, on land use, and other laws and regulations that are applicable. We have analyzed the participatory processes from the point of view of regulations, and we did so critically because the Council of Europe has identified 4 levels of public participation: information, consultation, dialogue, and partnership. And we have come to a conclusion, at least all Ukrainian specialists understand, that our participation will hardly reach the 2nd level, that is consultations, because rather often the public is addressed with a ready-made project, and then the public hearing are conducted in a very formalized way, and the key stakeholders have the choice who to engage and who to be allowed to participate. Very often such projects are published either on weekends or during holidays, and so rather few people would have access to such materials, and not everyone could really understand the language of such documents. So, and even when a representative from the public can apply with a proposal, they can be rejected on the basis that they should be well-grounded. But in general, to sum it up, the influence and participation is really very low in Ukraine. So we have listed these processes in our handbook. And, well, I think we can move on. Also, a very important part of our handbook is the history, why urban planners must know the history and the theory of urban planning, because we believe it is very important to plunge into the Ukrainian context. And present renovation processes are going to engage also European institutions, and it is extremely important for us to use the methods, the context, and the history of urban planning endemic for Ukraine. And I would like also to stress here that it is also very important to stimulate public participation, because this will be one of the requirements of the European Union. Without these processes, we will not be able to continue. Even formal adherence to these processes will not be enough anymore, because there is a huge need to do it in real. Also, our society feels quite a lot of pressure, and each of us has different experience. Some of it is very painful, and there is a gap to be bridged between the public and the decision takers, and we need facilitators who will be able to bridge this gap. I think I will give the floor to Jin, who will say a few words about the theoretical part, which he authored.
Before Jing will start, thank you, Darina, because I think it's need to be said. Thank you, Darina, for your work, for the presentation. And I need to say that when I was reading your part, because I read it several times, I realized how important it is to know this, not just for Ukrainian, to know all those laws and the status of community participation or the history, but also for us, those who work from abroad, who are trying to help Ukraine, how important it is to know your backgrounds, your urban planning history, and your laws. So I would say it's not just for Ukrainians to know and to read it, it's also for us all from abroad to get know better the context. Thank you very much for your work. But now I think it's time to say some more words about the fundamentals of participation. Why is it so important to do it, to engage public into the urban planning, or like how to overcome the challenges, because it is challenging to prepare a public participation process, and who are those who are taking part, or how we can engage them. And for this part, I would really like to invite Jing to tell us more, because you are the one who did an enormous job to write about it, and who knows a lot. So please, Jing, tell us more.
Thank you, Dominika. And I really appreciate also Darina, because it's Darina's work actually inspired me to continue this work. So my name is Jing Zhang. I'm the chair of the International Division of the American Planning Association. And I also serve on the Equity Advisory Committee to the United States Department of Transportation. So the start of the book is from the idea of share what American experience. So it is based on three things. The first is what the International Division of American Planning Association has did before, and also based on the adopted policies and the plans in American cities and metropolitan areas. The third one is based on basically personal observation and experience, based on, I think, about 4 experienced planners, 4 to 5, if including myself. So about the structure of the plan, structure of the handbook, section 1, we can think about it as like a 4 parts. Okay, so the first one is introduction, that includes the basic of planning principles, why it is important, the element of good practice, some enabling factors which can contribute to good practice and the challenges. And the second part is about the strategies that we collected widely throughout the United States. What do we consider the best strategies to engage the public? We can dig into that section later. I think I have about 10 minutes, so I will definitely talk about that. And another part is that is a toolkit, and I heard this might be the most important and interesting and useful part in the section 1, because we listed all kinds of tools that we used and put them into different category. We will talk about that later. And the last part, but not the least, is accessibility. That includes language accessibility, the location of the public events, and also about the website, and also the neurodiversity accessibility. So, so let's start from the beginning about introduction. In the introduction, we talk about planning, right? And I have to all be honest that the planning, the definition that we got here is based on the American Planning Association. And I think in the future, we might open to changes to what is most suitable for the Ukraine context. So what you see in the version 1 of this handbook, section 1, is we talk about what is planning, what the planners do in American context. Okay. And then we talk about the importance of the participation. So you can see in the section 1, we listed on the different levels. The first level is human rights, and we relied on the United Nations human rights regulations and the High Court, some kind of declarations and UN Habitat, and also the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN Assembly to support the idea of public participation. That is a very high level. And then we go down to the social cohesion. And I personally think that is most relevant for the reason that we conduct the public participation. That includes community empowerment, build the trust, social justice, sense of belonging, and enforce the behavior change. So I'm not going to into the deeps of into the weeds of the details. You can read that in the handbook. And then the other level, lower level, not quite lower actually, is a project success, because we all want the project to succeed. So the process can actually bring better decisions, better justification for the actions, and also better implementation after the plan is adopted. And the final one is about the professional commitment. That is targeting the planners and or the officials involved in this process. That is kind of a professional duty to have a good public participation. About the elements of good practice, we kind of listed I think it's a very comprehensive element. I have to be honest, not every single process that I experienced or I know includes every single details of the good elements. So it is a very high standard, but if we can meet like 4 or 3 or 4 among these elements, it is pretty decent public participation. So we list all we can think of, and we are inspired to do, and that's the elements of good practice. And following that is enabling factors. I think this part is interesting because this part tells us what kind of factors that will generate the good practice, how to build the environment, and can actually mutual the good practice of public participation. So in this part, we identified the strong legal basis, leadership support, planning capacity, financial resource, and the civil group like Roscovet, and healthy relationship between the government and the community. So the last part, I think I have 4 minutes, okay? The last part is the challenges. That is, to be honest, it's my, most challenging part, because we have to talk as it is. We don't want to sugarcoat the process to tell you how easy it is and how it will be fair, because the process, even the public participation, can easily get abused. What I mean is people use the process to achieve their goals without a justifiable intent. How about that? So so in this part, we really get into the honest talk about what can go wrong in the public participation, and this is the list of the things that we often, we experience day by day in American, and we are trying to find a way to overcome that. So if you are interested to know that, I think that's a very good part about the challenges of this. And okay, and then we go to the section. Another section is about strategies. So this is a more positive section. No, yes, a positive part. We talk about how to overcome the challenges, attract people, how to attract more people, get involved, and how to build trust between the government and the community. And we identify different stakeholders and how and things that we should avoid in the process. Then we can go to the toolkit. I think if I remember correctly, the toolkit, especially the table, we added the table at the very end of the development. And when we got everything on, I think we are kind of missing something. And then this is something very critical that we missed, because maybe in the end, this is only table that you will bring it to your home or to the public meetings, right? So that is the high point of this documentation. And so for the toolkit, we separate it into different groups. So we have information, information dissemination. It's called how we spread the news, how we spread the information. Another group is how we ask for opinion from the public. The other group is about how we establish a relationship and work together with the community group. Another group is the empowerment. That means how we can share the knowledge, give our power to the decision-making power to the local communities. And the other two subgroup is digital visualization and analysis prioritization. You can find more, it's more, how to say, technology oriented tools. So this all summarized with the toolkit reference. I think my time is almost done. So lastly, it's about accessibility. I think this part is even missing in many American practice, especially the neurodiversity and website part. I think American practice has pretty good emphasis on the language accessibility, because we have a Spanish population, and we all pay a lot of attention to the public transit and accessibility of the meeting event. But for the neurodiversity and the website, it's kind of a new even to us. Okay, I think my time is up. Thank you very much, Domenica.
Thank you very much, Jing, for the presentation and for the handbook, because I admit right now publicly that I use it already for my research, because it is really helpful, this section, to know like how is it working and how is it not working, maybe, because this is also very important to tell that not all the time the public participation is a good solution, and not all the time it is not working as we would like it to work. So it's good to know about it and to be aware of it when planning the public participation. But not speaking just about the theory, I think we should tell you more about some case studies and why we choose those. And for that, I would ask Fulco to tell us more, and not just about the case studies we choose for the handbook, but about his experiences from Soledar. Please, Fulco.
Yes, Dominica, thanks a lot. Yeah, it's amazing to be in this team with people who do this from research perspective, from personal experience, from historical point of view, and my main knowledge lies within the practice. So as an urban planner in the Netherlands and in Ukraine, I've experienced so many different case studies, and it's beautiful to see how that all aligns and how our knowledge comes together. For this handbook, we decided to choose for now, I think 6 different case studies to well, let's say, to answer the question that I get already for over a year now. We are working on thinking for planning about the future of Ukraine while the war is still going on. And we are working on participation. And we believe that participation is one of the most important tools while the war is going on. And it's actually part of Roskvit's main values, the core values that we decided a year ago. And this is also how we connected to APA and URAG, that this is so important for us. We really believe that this is needed for the future. And we actually get this question pretty much every day. Aren't there more important things to do? Shouldn't we move on faster? Participation costs time. Participation costs a lot of money. Well, actually, my experience is that this is not the case. Usually, with a good participation process, you win time, you gain quality, and you have a lot of more coherence in your society and in your planning. And this is also how we selected these 6 case studies from Japan, from Taiwan, from Poland, from Ukraine. And the case studies are in difficult situations. They are near the front line, like Solidar. It was in 2021. I'll tell you more about that. It is in huge transition periods. It's when earthquakes had just happened. It's when other traumatizing events have happened. And in all those cases, we see that because of this participation and because of this intense collaboration between citizens amongst each other, between NGOs and the municipalities, huge steps could be made. And I think in almost all of the cases, this participation methodology started from that point of this huge, intensive and problematic, traumatic experience, but it continued after a period that the main issues were over, but this process continued because that was part of the new identity and part of the new ways of working in these cities. Unfortunately, that last part is not true in the case study I'm going to show, because in Solidar Ukraine 2021, I worked personally in this relatively small Hromada, 10,000 inhabitants, and this area is now completely damaged and evacuated. We all know how the situation around Bakhmut is. But still, I want to share this with you, because in Solidar, like in Mariupol, where I did similar things in 2015, people were not used to this participation. People in the municipality were not used to this, but also people on the street and the active citizens were also not used. And it was very nice to see how different tools became some kind of understanding of how to communicate together. And in Solidar, Major van Schaik and me were for a month, and we designed the process. We made a simple process step, like Jing explained. One of those best practices, you start early in the process with involving people already, and we involve them even in, if we do the steps like this, are you willing to be involved? Are you happy to be involved? And in what way do you want to be involved? And this community of Solidar, they first started listening. Here they started listening to us a little bit like, okay, let's hear what these foreigners have to say to us. And but step by step, it became more interesting. We started collecting ideas. We started scoring them, not to vote, but to understand each other, which ideas people like the most. Then we did our homework again, and people could just connect to us, but they could also wait for a couple of weeks, and we came back with several ideas and asked them how they liked those ideas the best. We did this with all different ages, all different genders, all different approaches, backgrounds, and we came up with a vision for public space of this town, of this Hromada. And in the end, you can see here down in the right, there were 2 areas that we decided, and people could point out which things they liked the best, that was green or yellow, or which things they didn't like that much, and that would be red. And from all different ages and all different groups we had, only 2 times the red sticky note was placed. And what was really amazing, that they really wanted to continue afterwards. So they wanted to say, okay, I will take this project, I will take this part of the project, because they were involved, they were connected, they saw their own ideas there, even because in a workshop that we did, they came up with their own ideas, and they saw them reflected back in the vision that we finally, in the design that we finally presented. It's a real pity that this project couldn't continue, because we were planning to continue this in April 2022, and we all know what happened in between December 21 and April 2022. So anyway, this was a very interesting example how this community changed. You don't see all the people, of course, that we involved, how the discussion about their village changed, about their public space changed, and what tools they we used, and they can do it the next time themselves. The municipality next time with some small support can do it themselves, and that is also a way how Roskvit and URAG are trying to learn and implement these participation processes in Ukrainian situation.
Thank you very much, Foucault, for this great example of how it can work, not just within big hromadas or big cities, but also within the small communities. And
maybe nice, Jing said something about what accessibility, what language do you use? So we needed, in talks, we needed to use many different languages, of course, and Ukrainian, English, sometimes Russian mixed in there because it was close to the eastern part. But in the end, the final presentation, it was only visual language. We decided to say, yeah, everything was just pictures, because that was what was equal for everybody. And it was also a way how to make it accessible and equal discussion. It was a very nice tool, and it helped everybody to join.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing this experience from Ukraine. But also thank you very much for like creating this team, because without it we wouldn't be here even today. And I think you managed to create a very interesting team of different, like of people from different fields, from different countries, and having a different relation to Ukraine, and that's really amazing. And that's, I think, that's what make us work so well, and that's why we have this handbook today. And so thank you very much all for your nice words, for nice explanation how this, like what is inside the book, and what you can read there, what you can find there. To do so, please, you can find the link also in the chat, so don't worry, you can always find it, or you can find it on the Roskvit or URAG webpage. But we have one also question to you, because as Jing mentioned several times, this is a living document. It's just the first version. So we are expecting some feedback from you, and you can do so on the webpage next to the handbook, where you can leave us some comments, criticism, or some ideas how we can make the second version even better. Or maybe you can leave us your contacts, because you are really interested in collaboration, let's say. And if you do so, just follow those QR codes, or just follow the link in the chat. We will be very, very grateful to hear from you, and maybe get to know each other a bit better. Thank you very much again for the presentation. And now I'm opening the discussion. Margot, floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Yes, dear colleagues, thank you. And I will moderate our today's discussion. I will put questions, both my own and the questions from the audience. And I encourage everyone who is with us today to use Q&A and chat for your questions to be asked in English or in Ukrainian. And you can also raise a hand and I will give you the floor live. So I would like to start with a question which has already been tackled by Fulco. Why it is time to engage the public right now when the war is still raging. But here I think we need to discuss how to act in this situation, which is changing radically every minute. How can participatory practices be of use? Maybe participation can be risky. How to tackle these risks in the wartime and after it? And I can see Gala also is raising her hand. You have the floor.
Thank you. I want to make a correction. I am city and regional planner and not an architect. Thank you. So I wanted to bring to the origins of how we were developing this participation book and say that this book was actually a reminder to Ukrainians as well as international organizations that plan to work in Ukraine or work currently, that Ukraine has a long history of participation and working with Ramadas, such as Viche that comes from Middle Ages. Rada means advising in Ukrainian, and parliament means more parler, talking. So the advising participation is embedded in Ukrainian history, and democratic process has historical roots. Magdeburg law for Ukrainian cities that gave them more autonomies for local communities. So the participation book was a reminder to Ukrainians and bringing awareness to international organizations that participation doesn't start in 2022 or 2023. It has a long tradition, and we have to remember that and come from that perspective. American context has public participation built in the process when communities get federal or state funding for the projects. Public participation had to be documented and reported. Enforcement and tools for accountability are important for the project implementation. So we are looking forward to see this approach or how the public participation is embedded in financial documents, in laws in Ukraine. What is currently very important now to address is public participation facilitators and governmental officials who are in charge of city development or village development must be aware of urgent needs, emergency responses, which might be in conflict with meaningful public participation. This is what Fulco has mentioned. And thus they have to have strategies how to address those possible conflicts when you need to address urgent need and public participation that takes longer time might be in conflict with these approaches. That's why the handbook that we created guides how to do it, provides tools, case studies, how it was done in other geographies. On average, public participation requires more time because organizers, facilitators need time to build trust within the community, provide feedback during vision session and implementation stages, for example. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Halo. Yeah, and I have so many questions, and I will put the first question from Mr. Mikola. In your opinion, how can we speed up participation so that it won't take so long during the city renovation? And on my part, I would like also to add how to ensure quality of participation when we have to get quick solutions? I think I can ask this question to Fulgo and to Darina. I can start, I guess. Well, Gala has already answered partially this question. True, participation is requiring a lot of time, and not just time, it can also increase the cost of the project, and you need to put it through for developers, but quality will be higher. And in my opinion, yes, there are urgent challenges in the renovation problem we need to tackle, but when we talk about high quality of urban planning or communities, villages, townships, settlements, we must use participation as a tool. I just cannot see any process going on without it, because we will face radical activism otherwise. And another thing I would like to add here, Margot, your part of the question, please. Can you remind me? Yes, Margot says how to really ensure high quality of such processes when we have to give quick solutions. Darina continues that we're not going to engage 100% of the public. If we engage local activists and those who are eager to invest their time that they can spend with their family otherwise, or the time they can spend earning something, but when they are ready to contribute into the processes that concern them, this increases the quality of such processes. I think this will be my answer. Right, maybe somebody else will add anything.
Yeah, I'd like to. I have a couple of experiences where people ask the same question all the time. Will it be more expensive? Will it be a lot longer before decisions can be made? And I analyzed all those projects, and it was interesting to see that it was not only the people in the municipality or the people in the development company who were asking those questions, but the same questions were asked by the citizens that were involved because they wanted to live there, or they were neighbors of the location, or they wanted to be they wanted to have this new park. And they also asked exactly the same question. Does it take a lot of time? Will it be more expensive? Because I don't want it. And I was interested in the projects that went well, that succeeded. There was a mutual interest with similar questions. So I'm not so much afraid that, for example, in cities that will have a lot of questions of IDPs or a lot of questions about rebuilding parts of the city, people have the same interest. They want to have that fast, and they also want to have it beautiful, and they want to have it quality, but they also want to have it fast. So you need to make a process and clear steps on what parts of the process everybody can influence that, and what part of the process people can come up with their ideas and bring in their vision on how it could be or should be. And then you can bring all those different interests together, and then it's not only the same interest again on time and money, but it's also the interest on quality and perspective. So in my opinion, having the similar objectives, similar goals, actually sometimes even the projects went faster than projects without participation, because in the end, without participation, a lot of bureaucratic stuff had to be done, and a lot of questions were asked, and a lot of a negative energy was placed, because there was no involvement, there was no communication, there was no participation.
Thank you so very much for these inspirational answers. I would like to continue with a question which is more critical. We also have a comment, and this is a question from Ms. Tatiana. You have shared your best practices, successful practices. How can you see bad practices? Because in Ukraine, unfortunately, participation doesn't work every time, and we have some bad experiences. We also have a comment from Ms. Olena about European community, which presently has some rather negative experience in artificial participation. Maybe you can share your own experience which is not very successful, and how you processed it to transform it into good practices. Maybe you have some suggestions for Ms. Olena from European, what to do right now so that this process would be better. And because Jean was using so much, was focusing attention on the instruments, can I give the floor to Jean to ask him answer the question? But I would also ask Fulko and Darina to introduce the topic, maybe. Yes, actually I have quite a lot of comments here, because I have worked in Ukraine for 15 years as an urban planner, and rather often I was on the evil side, on the dark side, so to say, and I was the designer and the urban planner who is doing all those stages to complete the project. And unfortunately, the clients were eager to finalize the project as soon as possible without any problems, and problems were identified with participation. And I don't have any suggestions about European, because I don't know the situation there keenly, and this experience of mine made me despair about participation in Ukraine. So somehow I was doing a master plan, and it was a difficult process. Quite a lot of people had something to say and contribute. And unfortunately, all these stages were rather rushed through. And I can say that, no, it was not good quality participation. And for some time, I actually stopped doing it. Up until the beginning of the war, I didn't do any urban design, urban planning after this. And my inspirational team has also inspired me that change is possible, and we understand the international context also, and our international colleagues inspire and support us, and I understand what can be amended, what can be tweaked to make it better. Thank you very much, Darina. Jean, maybe you have any pieces of advice in terms of instruments, how to choose the correct instrument to provide high quality transformation and use of participation?
Okay, thanks. That's a good question. So in the handbook, we have a table. So, and we listed, I think, almost 10 scenarios at different stage of the planning process and different context, and try to put the tool on a different category with a check sign. I have to say this is quite arbitrary. That means we kind of decide where to go, but without any, how to say, deep theoretical theory back. It's all based on our experience. So, I mean, in the practice, it's really, really diverse. And even in the United States, in different city, in different county, or different states, different political environment is very depend on the local people's political leaders decision how many resources going to expend on the public participation, and the how to say how really people want to get involved. There also has some context about the local history. So in terms of how to choose those tools, I would say, starting with a good intent, express what you want to do to the public, and try the tools. It can consistent with the handbook, the table, or not. You don't need to care much about that, but it's just a guidance. But I think the most important thing is that you explicitly, clearly, simply express your intent of what you're going to do. I think that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Jin. And I would like also to read one comment which we got. Local government is going to fake those processes with fake public hearings, so that because the money is the issue and the only instrument the community has is the public hearing, but no one actually can make the developers or the municipality to do it right. And Mr. Dmitrov says here that the real sponsor for renovation will need to choose sides, because these are the two sides, opposing sides, the municipality and the public. So Fulko, maybe you have a comment. How can we make this participatory process transparent, and how can it be efficient for the decision-making process of municipalities and other stakeholders?
Yes, it's like mentioned already a couple of times before by Jing also, this is it's a complex process. It's very many choices to make, and many wrong choices also to make, with intent or without intent. Also in the Netherlands and in USA and in Poland and in Slovakia, these processes very often are not going well. So it's a process that the whole world is going through. And my personal belief is that in Ukraine, the power of the civilian society is so strong that this could lead to very positive solutions, actually. As long as we do two things all the time together, we stand for the rights, people will stand for the rights, they will fight for their rights on the one hand, and be constructive on the other side in trying to learn, trying to develop, trying to get into new steps in these participational approaches. I think this combination could be very strong and in Ukraine. So for the some of the experience that you shared in the comments, yes, in the end, a public hearing is some kind of fighting methodology. Maybe a public hearing with a lot of media attention is even a stronger fighting methodology, because this is like a final way how to make your point and be clear about what can be done or what cannot be done. And who can organize a public hearing, how to do that, that's not easy, but it's possible. It's a law that's already founded in 2013, I guess, in Ukraine. So it's not a new law, it's an existing law that you can use about public hearing. That's the fighting part. But about the constructive learning part, I think we were thinking, but I'd like to hear your comments, we were thinking of setting up a network of specialists in Ukraine that could support important projects in Ukraine that need to be changed, that need some consultation, that need some support and help in process developments. People who could support, and it could be, let's say, hired by either the developer or the government, maybe even by a local community, to help this process going on, because we believe also that sometimes the process is not designed well, and not by wrong intentions, but just by not knowing the exact way how to do it in a proper way. So that would be my my advice, and I would love to hear your comments on our ideas to build this group of specialists that could support.
I can see Gala's hand, so I think that I'm giving the floor to Gala.
Yes, I wanted also to highlight that participation exists in different forms. So you shouldn't limit yourself only to big public forums. For example, my dissertation focusing on autistic neurodivergent communities participating. And for them, for this population, for example, big, noisy, conflicting public open forums with 100 people will be prohibitive to participate during due to sensory overload and other sensory issues. So you should come to understand, and public participation can be in forms of focus groups, interviews, surveys, questionnaires. You can go and meet people where they are. This is what public participation book is about, like different tools. You are going to them. You are not bringing them to the city hall. Sometimes you need to go where they already are, to the park, to some gathering, to neighborhood meeting, or to some festival. You have to be aware now how you work with trauma, because planning now in Ukraine will draw a lot of knowledge from working with trauma and planning. You have to be aware of resources available to communities in terms of participation. Does this particular community have resources and time to participate, or they're dealing with urgent needs of survival or being safe? So all of these things have to be now a priority for public participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Gala. And Darina, you have the floor. Yes, I would like also to add here that maybe our Ukrainian guests have heard that our parliament has initiated the creation of the new urban planning code, and there was an open call for participation in this process. A Rosquit Coalition for Ukraine has delegated its representatives, and this new urban planning code is going to create equal conditions for all the participants of the process, and our proposals are going to focus on changing this process that is currently being used, which allows public hearing to be formal, which makes participation simply pretense, but we are going to lobby this process to look differently and be conducted differently, so that other participants would be aware of the importance of this process. Thank you very much. Thank you, Darino. And you have raised an important issue. Participation nowadays has already started at the level of legislature, and so we have bottom-up and top-down processes, and we have quite a few comments in our Q&A and chat which focus on participation in municipalities. I would like to summarize them in the following way. How should the responsibility be distributed between those who need to engage the public in urban planning? Does the responsibility lie with the architects, with the contractors, with the municipality, or should the responsibility lie with the public, with the community? Who should initiate the process? How would you advise this process to be arranged? I think we can start with Darina, and then Fuka, we would like to hear your opinion here. It's a great question, which we have been asking to ourselves, especially in projects which we are doing in cooperation with several municipalities. In my opinion, to initiate the process is the responsibility of the local self-government, and they must realize the importance of this process, because local municipality represents the people. Local municipality is elected by the people. And also, I believe that local urban planners must also join the process, and the process must be later explained to developers. Thank you. Vulko, maybe you can make a comment, and I can see Gala. Okay, so this is the question to you then.
First Gala, I think.
Yes. Currently, if you're following Ukrainian news, there was some reaction and conflicts between architects, planners, and developers. So I want to bring from United States experience, for example, developers that come to build, like, for example, housing, affordable housing, any kind of projects. They, in their process, have public participation in their work. Public participation embedded in their development process. I have not seen yet, and if I missed it, you can direct me to the sources, when development projects, developers in Ukraine include public participation into their development process. If it's on governmental or legislative level, not only city officials who are required by the law because they are elected and they're part of the community, but also private developers. Do they have public participation embedded in their development process? That's the question.
I think I can start responding here. I know one case when a private developer has resorted to participation. I hope this is not the only case, it's just something that I know. But I cannot say that the results of the participation were fully implemented. Yes, they have influenced, affected the solution. But there is always the question of balance. Usually the public expresses their opinion, and then not everything is included into the development process. Fulka, maybe you have a different experience.
It very much depends on the scale and the kind of question. My experience is that when it's on a bigger scale and long-term solutions, let's say a whole neighborhood or maybe even a whole town, which direction do you want to go? These processes are very good to do together and to try to find this mutual interest and not like bargaining and find a balance as to find the gray zone, but try to find the optimized situation. I think this is this asks for first steps in workshops, brainstorms, feedback, interactive tools, online, offline, and then later professionals can use all the different approaches and information from the people to come back with analysis of that work, analysis of their the feedback that they got. And I think on this bigger scale that is really well doable. I also think next week we are going to present a vision for Mariupol. It's for the future of Mariupol, which is of course a very delicate topic, and we are one of the teams that are working on that. We talked about that with people in Mariupol centers in all around Ukraine, and this is going to be the start of a process. It's going to be the start of a participation process from our point of view, that we have to involve everybody, not only to have it speeded up or have good transparency, but because we believe that the quality of the work will be improved by that. We can do that online. We can do that with people all around the country. We can do that because we can show transparent what all the different approaches are, and we believe that then we can coordinate this communication and participation process. On a smaller scale, it's sometimes more difficult because then you suddenly feel, this new highway, it's going to be placed in my backyard, or this huge apartment building is very close to me, or it's making noise, or the factory gets new possibilities of making polluted or noisy impact to the neighborhood. That part is never easy. That part needs very good communication in front. So what are the legal boundaries there that the factories can do? What is the official status of this participation? So if people say something, will they be heard? Will they be followed as well? And who decides in the end on the different approaches that you have? Make first, in the beginning, make the rules of the game and then start playing the game. It's just like any conversation. It's just like any, sometimes it's even a little bit like a match. Any match you do, nobody will win if you don't set the rules of the game first. But then if you do set the rule, somebody might win some points, somebody might lose some points, but everybody agrees because the arguments were better, or maybe the interests were stronger, and then you can agree because that was the rules of the game. So the different skills, different levels really matter in what kind of tools you use, what timing you use it, and the handbook tries to provide, the first version of the handbook tries to provide information how to do it together.
Here, I would like also to continue the topic Fulka has started in his response. Fulka, you have also said that you're working with Mariupol centers, you're working on the vision for Mariupol. If we take our current context into account, if we take into account the number of IDPs, how to work with them, how to engage them, what is their role in the participatory process? do they have any right at all to influence the decisions taken in specific cities? Maybe the cities they're staying currently in, maybe their own native cities which they have abandoned. How can you see the involvement of IDPs in participatory processes?
Well, from my personal opinion, but it's not stated in any law or something, from my personal opinion, yes, they have absolutely a role. They have a role in the situation where they live now as an IDP, how they had to leave their hometown or previous home. They have a role in the new situation, definitely. I think in many cases they will take a small role there. They feel as a guest very often. What I hear from them, they feel as being a guest that, of course, should be asked for opinions and should be listened to. And that is a role. That's a very important role, because that is where you build these temporary houses for, or temporary locations for houses or companies maybe. But on the other hand, they are still officially a resident of the place that they used to live. And I assume it's not a good idea to take away the rights of that residentship. So the plans that this municipality is making and the communication about it should be tried to address as much as possible to the IDPs around the country or around the world, as long as they're still registered there, and maybe even longer. I don't think that the role always needs officially voting and counting votes. It's very often participation is a lot to do about expressing ideas, having a good dialogue, finding arguments in order to make the right decisions. And that role can always be giving, because those people have experience, they are emotionally attached, they have a very strong opinion, and all those things, they contribute to good planning and good participation as well. So we are hoping that we can find the participatory ways, that we can find the tools from the handbook and around, online, offline, Telegram groups, Facebook groups, whatever we have, to have surveys, questionnaires, maybe sometimes other small think tank groups, in order to engage the people as much as possible and let them influence and advise all the decisions that will be made.
Thank you, Fulko. Gala, you have the floor.
So I wanted to start with basic questions. If you are conducting participation or plan to conduct to involve internally displaced people, the first you have to ask yourself, why are you involving EDPs? What are you going to do with their comments or their feedback? You need to start with basic questions. Ask yourself why you are involved in this particular group and what for. And what will you do with this information that they will provide you? Similarly, internally displaced people should ask themselves, why do I need to participate? Is it a formality project? Is it extractive process that they just come and ask my opinion and don't care to come back to me, provide me with feedback, tell me how they involved my opinion into development process and so on? So why I need to participate in this? And what is there for me? Those are the crucial questions I think both parties should ask themselves.
Thank you so very much for this remark about the bilateral trust. This is the process we must be building very carefully now, so that our participatory processes would lead to tangible results, visible for the community. And finally, I think I'm not asking any more questions, but rather I am reading a comment from our international colleague about the second conference being conducted in London presently on renovation of Ukraine. And it is at the top level, conducted at the top level, and participation is one of the topics very actively discussed in this conference. And quite a lot of big events were conducted on Ukrainian renovation, which was supported by the European Commission, and they were also targeting participation very actively. We got a video shared with us of this presentation, and I think that our team, dear colleagues, we will happily watch it, and then we will be ready to respond to your question, how our handbook can face the challenges that help face the challenges that Ukraine is now facing. So I would ask the whole team the following question: how would our handbook help us, support us? At what level will it be the most efficient? I think I will start, Darina. I would like to say that we have been using this handbook already. I have mentioned already to form the proposal for the new urban planning code of Ukraine. We're also planning to conduct workshops with municipalities, local activists, local NGOs, and we are going to use the tools that are listed in our handbook, but also we are using them not like on the ad hoc level. We are actually designing a methodology for municipalities to support them to use these instruments and to go ahead and use them without our support later on. And I hope that it will be of positive effect. And I can see that there is a big response and interest on the part of the municipalities. I'm talking about the municipality of Zaporizhia, for instance, and other frontline municipalities. And it is difficult for them to arrange all these processes, but we can see that we can help here. And we would really like to support them in this. And we hope that later on, as our territories are going to be liberated and will be safe again, this handbook would be easier and more efficiently used. Thank you. Then I think I should ask Dominika to take the floor as our head for many months of intense work.
Thank you very much. I would just continue with the question, answering the question, like how we can use it. Darina already answered and give you a very nice explanation. But it's not just about hromadas and architects in practice. It's also about students and capacity building, because we still have even them in mind. And we would like to prepare, like even Tatiana is already working on preparing the courses for students at different universities in Ukraine to give them an insight, what is participation, how can it be used, to give the knowledge not just to those who are already in a practice, but also to those who are starting, who are being educated right now. So they would start their work with having this method in mind, that it could be implemented, it could be helpful, and it could be efficient urban planning or architectural planning. So yeah, we have in mind one more thing we have in our plans is conductions of competitions, architectural or urban planning competitions, which we haven't mentioned yet today, because they're also a very interesting part of participation. And the Ukraine for now is not very open for such architectural competition, but it's very good to start speaking about it and preparing such a competition, starting just step by step, and yeah, bringing it into the practice and into a normal life.
Guys, we are hacked. Margot, do you know how to solve this?
Well, I'm trying to switch it off.
I think it means that our Zoom meeting is very important.
True. So I apologize for this hack. But I hope that we can actually leave it behind us and continue towards conclusions. Fulko, Gala, Jean, would you like to finalize our today's meeting with some conclusions?
I can say that we mentioned at the beginning, this is work in progress. It's living document. So it's up to all of us and those who are present here and those who wrote and participated in writing this handbook. So this is living document. You should contribute to it and we will add to it. Thank you.
Yes, for me, I think I will try to develop some useful tools for this handbook.
And from my side, I'd like to end with every time we discuss participation in Ukraine, I really feel this is a deep place where it could take a leap forward. It's very, very interesting questions we get, and every time I learn a lot from that. So definitely give feedback. That is really what I hope. That makes it a lot easier for us to improve the handbook and to develop more on this side. So I really hope you will fill in the form and yet you connect to us. That makes our life a lot more direct. It gives direction to this team and to what we can do. The questions that I hear from different villages, cities, experience that they have, they all get me thinking, and it can improve the handbook and our work.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you for your conversation, for the experience you have shared. And from now on, the handbook is in public domain in 2 languages. This web page also has template for feedback, and also you can find it on the last page of our handbook. Please share your feedback, share your comments, share what should be added, how we can improve it. And thank you so very much, dear colleagues, for your presentation. This is the team of Roskut Urban Coalition for Ukraine and Ukraine Rebuilding Action Group. And this handbook is published with the support of ZMIN Foundation. And thank you, dear partners, for understanding how important it is. Thank you once again, everyone, and see you all during our next events.